Hey there, my name is Matthew, and what we're going to do in this class is a follow along sequence to prepare your body for forearm stand. The way that I'm going to lay this class out though is in a very informative style. So we're going to do it very systematically, meaning we're going to go over and prepare the areas that need to be stretched or might need to be lengthened. Then we'll go over the areas that actually need a little bit of the opposite of that, what need to be strengthened or where you need to create a little bit more stability for the pose. And then we'll go ahead and look at some, let's say, entry strategies that can systematically or progressively walk you towards doing forearm stand. Okay. What might be helpful for class is if you have a belt or something like it, as well as an open wall space. And if you don't have either one of those, we can work around it. It's fine. But when you're ready, lie down and let's get started. So once you lie down, wrap the belt around your right foot and extend your right leg up. If you don't have a belt, just grab onto the back of your right thigh and then extend your right leg up. So just stretch the back of your right leg. And then if it's comfortable enough to do it with both legs straight, do it with both legs straight. Otherwise, left foot on the floor is just fine. So first things first, going to start us off with some hamstring stretching, and there is a clear reasoning. There's a very clear reasoning why I'm going to ask you to stretch your hamstrings to do forearm stand. So the main reasoning is the most let me see the best words. The most common entry for a forearm stand is coming into dolphin pose. That's basically down dog with your forearms on the floor. Lifting one leg up, walking in, and then using your bottom leg to hop your hips over your elbows, over your shoulders, and then try to catch yourself there. So that's the most common entry into a forearm stand. So stretching the hamstrings, there's a few benefits that you can create by taking this strategy of stretching the hamstrings first. And one of them is being able to potentially stack your hips or stack your shoulders and then stack your hips over your elbows just a little bit more before you lift the leg and come into your like split leg position in dolphin pose. Not only that, it's going to make the splitting of the legs a little bit more free. You might be able to split the legs a little bit more freely. All right, go ahead and complete that exhale and then switch sides. So here, if you were able to look at this position from the side, so from more of like a profile view, what you're doing in your legs here is pretty close to, let's say if you're about to hop up into forearm stand. So we're just kind of mimicking that shape to some degree in your legs and your hips. Now, one of the things though that is that we might as well get online, since we're essentially gonna be doing that in the forearm stand, is strengthen your legs. So push out through the bottoms of your heels, firm up through let's say pull the kneecaps up, firm the thighs up, all the way up. So pull the muscles of your legs up towards your hips. So you got to get the tops of your thighs to actually pull in towards the pelvis. So that whole area, your hips, all 360 degrees of your hips they actually have to suck the tops of your thigh bones into their sockets while you're spreading your legs apart, while you're in a more extreme position in your hips. All right, go ahead and release. Let's come up into down dog. So a little more hamstring stretching. So down dog, a little bit more hamstring stretching, but also you'll start to warm up your arms and your shoulders here. All right, so still pull the kneecaps up, pull the front of your thighs up. And I know it's a little bit, since I don't have any really clear instructions for you, this next cue is, let's say, a little bit of elusive for most, but pull the thighs up and try to pull the heads of your thigh bones in towards the hips. So all the way up into the pelvis there. All right, now step your right foot forward between your hands and lower your back knee down. Come up into a low lunge position. So bring your hands up onto your front thigh. Back up out of your lunge just a little bit so you can move your tailbone and your buttocks down and your abdomen up. Now, I just want you to stretch the front of your left hip. So keep the tailbone, buttocks moving down, abdomen pulling up, and then lunge again. So go back towards your lunge again, meaning move your hips towards your front foot, but keep the belly drawing up just so the front of your left hip has a little bit more demand there. And this again is still going after that spreading of the legs, the splitting of the legs that we're going to use to hop up into forearm stand eventually. So take another breath here. Step back to down dog. Again, let's just hold this one for a few breaths, but drive down through your hands, stretch out through your arms, move your thighs up and back, your hips up and back, and your heels down and back. Just take one more in-breath. And then step your left foot forward between your hands, lower your back knee down, and low lunge again. So same approach as the first side. Back up out of the lunge. So your hips or your back thigh is more in a vertical position. Move your tailbone, your buttocks down, and your belly and abdomen up. All right. Maintain that positioning of the pelvis, and then go towards your lunge again. So really trying to put quite a bit of demand on the front of your right hip now. And this potentially can help with the lifting of that top leg. So there's less restriction or less tension whenever you go to lift that top leg up when you're going to kick up. So pause for another inhale. Step back to down dog as you exhale. We're going to cycle through those again, but just park it in down dog for a few breaths and push the inner edges of your hands down and forward. Reach your elbows straighter and your hips higher. Then from there, pull the thighs up and back, your heels down and back. One more in-breath. Step your right foot forward, lower your back knee down. Low lunge again. Bring your hands up onto your front thigh. Back up out of your lunge so your left thigh is more in a vertical position. Move your tailbone down, your belly up, and then go back into your lunge. So feel free to step your right foot away from your back knee, meaning spread out your stance a little bit if that seems appropriate. Now, just to add more, let's say, lift to the pose, feel free to stretch your arms up. You can keep your hands down, though, if you need to. But stretch your arms up would actually make a lot of sense because of this, what we're doing, the Pincha Mayurasana warm up. One more in-breath. Go back to down dog. Again, hold this for just a couple breaths. Push through your hands, lengthen your elbows, stretch through your shoulders and lift your hips. Then pull the thigh bones up towards the hips and then heels down and back. With your next exhale, step your left foot forward and lower your back knee down. Come up into your low lunge position again. Back up out of the lunge so your back thigh is more vertical. And then posteriorly tilt your pelvis. So that means rock the top rim of your pelvis backwards a little bit. Then go back into your lunge. I typically don't ask people to do that in a lot of poses for good reason. It's just kind of playing with the natural rhythms between the pelvis and the spine a little bit. But for this purpose, just to put more stretch on the front of your hip, and we're not under a great deal of load in the spine, I think it's fine. Stay there or stretch your arms up overhead. As you do it, lift your side waist up, stretch your arms up. One more inhale. Down dog. Go back to down dog, exhale. Park it for a breath or two. Pull your thighs up and back. Heels down and back. Okay, lower down and sit back on your heels. Unless that's just not comfortable, if it's not sustainable, sit any way that is comfortable so you can be here for a few minutes, all right? You could even sit in a chair if you wanted to. But we'll do a little bit of shoulder stretching, as that's going to be a major component of getting your body prepared for forearm stand. So stretch your arms up, out in front of you. And then your right arm, raise it up even higher till it's flexed about 180 degrees there. And then bend your right elbow and place your right hand on the upper back. Now the left hand, swing it back, internally rotate the arm, and bring the hands together if you can. If you need a belt between your hands, grab a belt. If you need to use your shirt, use your shirt. If you're, happen to be a little bit bulkier or a little bit tighter, and that's just this arm position isn't happening for you, just reach up there and grab that right elbow and pull the right elbow a little bit higher. So here as well, like I said, this is definitely more of your, let's say, lengthening some of the components of the shoulders. So your arm goes into this position a little bit more freely. We'll work on some of the actions, stabilizing actions in a moment. This is literally just stretching. Let's go ahead and stretch and prepare. All right, release. And then second side, reach your arms up about shoulder height. Left arm, bring it up to vertical. Bend the elbow. Place your hand on your upper back and then swing that right arm back. See if you can clasp your hands. One side is definitely going to be different than the other. This side on me is like my hands are a mile apart. The other side, just fine. So just work with whatever you have. If you need to modify this side, go ahead and modify this side. Could grab the top elbow, stretch it up. Could put a belt in between your hands. Either way, this top elbow, reach it up towards the roof. Try to keep your chin out of your chest. That might be something that's going on here if you're a little bulkier or a little bit tighter. And if you happen to be already a little bit more mobile, potentially you could be throwing your ribs forward, meaning pulling your lower back in strongly and thrusting your bottom ribs forward. So let's minimize that as well. Okay, release. Shake it out if you need to. Okay, come down to your forearms and your knees and interlace your fingers all the way together. Now, place your elbows just about outer shoulder width apart and then step your knees back behind your hips with your toes tucked under. We're going to do dolphin pose next. So this is a variation of dolphin pose where your hands are interlaced together. And I want us to start there as that's a little bit more, let's say, a little bit less demanding on the shoulders than your traditional or your contemporary dolphin pose. So go ahead and lift your knees up and lift your hips up. Separate your feet as wide as your mat and bend your knees. Bend your knees, lift your heels, and then try to back bend. Go ahead and lift your hips. Pull your lower back in. Now push your wrists down and forward. Push your elbows down and forward. And get your upper back to move into the body. Then once you feel as if that's pretty much all you have, all the movement you're going to get out of those areas, then go ahead and start to work your heels lower. So now stretching the upper back a little bit, still definitely stretching the shoulders, but increasing the load and demand on your shoulders as well though. So lift your hips up, push the floor away, lift your side waist up. Then come down and rest. Shake it out. I'm aware that one's somewhat demanding. Shake it out. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and do another round. So this is just still all preparation. Not so much, there's a little bit of strengthening. Definitely some strengthening going on here, but I'm using it still more as a mobilizing preparation. So go ahead and come up in dolphin variation. So a dolphin variation. Walk your feet in a little bit more this time. Bend your knees, lift your heels, and lift your hips. Now I want you to push your wrists down and forward, your elbows down and forward, and go ahead and get your upper back to move into the body. So get the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. So pull the bottom tips of your shoulder blades into the body and then lift your hips higher. Once you get all that, then start to descend your heels down and back. Keep looking in between your forearms. So that's a pretty typical gazing point for the forearm stand, is in between your forearms. But still down at the floor there. All right, walk out, come down to your knees, sit back on your heels and rest. Feel free to do child's pose if that's a little more appropriate for you. Shake it out if you need to. Okay, sit up if you're in child's pose. Just a kind of clarification. What I'm having you do is essentially what would be the hand positioning and arm positioning, shoulder positioning for headstand 1. The forearm stand traditionally isn't done this way. The forearm stand is traditionally done with your wrists as wide as your elbows shoulder width apart, palms flat on the floor. That's a traditional variation. But this right here happens to be less demanding on the shoulders. So I'm going to have us kind of work like this at first and potentially get upside down in this variation of forearm stand before we start to separate or externally rotate the upper arm bones more. So this is more internal rotation on the shoulders than this position is, which can potentially decrease or a perceived decrease in demand on most bodies and most shoulder regions. Okay. So we'll work like this again. So let's go ahead and set that up, the dolphin pose again. So we'll do one more round of this dolphin here, but we're going to add we're going to add one piece in, which is just lift the leg. All right. So go ahead and come into your dolphin position, or this variation of dolphin. Look in between your forearms, push the floor away, and lift your hips up and back. Now from there, go ahead and walk your feet in and do your best to try to stack your shoulders over your elbows and your hips on top of that. Do your best. Try to get in there as far as you can. Push the floor away again, lift your hips, and then lift one leg up. All right. So lift one leg up. Don't worry how high it goes, though. You're not in a competition for who can lift their leg the highest. Put the right foot down. Push the floor away again. Stabilize your shoulders, and then lift your left leg up. Again, don't worry about how high you go. This is literally just trying to get you in this position and integrate these pieces together. Take another breath here. Bring your left foot down. Walk out. Sit back on your heels. Come down in child's pose if you need for a little bit of rest. Take a few breaths. Okay. Well, that's fun. Now, one of the major components of doing these inverted poses, primarily headstand, forearm stand, handstand, mainly the last two though, forearm stand and handstand, is that you truly need to learn how to integrate your limbs and your midsection together. I think this is one aspect that a lot of people kind of miss whenever it comes to core strengthening. You know, we hear this thing about core strengthening. Oh, you need to strengthen your core more to be able to do these poses, which is definitely true. But I think it's more important to learn how to make it all seal together. Seal might not be the best words, or get them to work together as if they're one unit. Okay, we'll go through some exercises to do that. So we'll do some core strengthening stuff here. So that was a little tangent. Come to all fours. You've done this before, I'm sure, but reach your left foot back. Keep the toes tucked under for now, and then reach your right arm overhead. Now, the way that I want you to do this is in a manner that doesn't disturb your midsection too much. I want you to tuck your tailbone down here a little bit and pull your belly up. And try not to back bend at all as you lift your left foot off the floor and stretch your right arm overhead. So at a certain point in the quest to lift your left leg up, if you lift it too high, what you're going to feel is that you're going to start to back bend. Your lower back's going to pull in. Your belly's going to dip down towards the floor, and I want you to minimize all of that. All right, bring the hand and knee down. We'll do the second side. So just stretch the right leg back, tuck the toes under, and then firm that leg up into the hip socket there. Stretch your left arm overhead. And then seal up the lower abdominal region, basically in between the ribs and the top of your pelvis. Cinch that in. Then keep it that way as you stretch your right leg up and back. Again, like I said, don't worry about how high your limbs go. So I want you to be more concerned with not distorting the midsection as you lift your arm and leg and stretch them away from each other. Okay, release it down. Let's pull back to down dog for a brief moment. So there's so many ways that we can work on building, let's say, it's deeper core strength is really what's going on there, what I'm asking us to do. There's so many ways that we can do it. And we'll go ahead and explore a couple more here. So rock forward to plank pose. Now, do your best to get your hips in between your shoulders and your heels, even if that means you need your knees on the floor. Some of you might need your knees down, or even down on your forearms if your wrist can't handle it. But step your feet in together and do your best to pull your lowest ribs towards the top rim of your pelvis, and then the top rim of your pelvis towards your lowest rib. So I want you to find that first. Do your best to maintain it as you lift your right foot just off the floor or just a couple inches off the floor. Put your right foot down. Let's do the second side. So cinch up the belly, lift your left foot off the floor. Put it down. Separate your feet, hip width apart, and then pull back to down dog. Step your feet in a little bit, release the abdomen, and take a couple breaths here. And then let's do that again. So pull forward to plank. Let's come on down to the forearms for this one, actually. So come down to forearms and then interlace your fingers. Do a forearm plank with your fingers interlaced. All right. Now step the feet in closer together. Stay here if you need. Otherwise, cinch up the belly and lift one foot off the floor without disturbing the midsection too much, because it's going to try to twist to some degree. Put your right foot down. Second side, lift your left foot. Try not to distort the midsection too much in one way or another. Put your left foot down. Come back to plank pose. Go back to down dog pose. Release the abdominal region. Take a few breaths. Then come through and lie down on your back. Okay, so just lie down on your back. Enjoy that for a moment. We're gonna do one more round of this, what I'm calling deep core stabilization. One of the major reasons why I'm having us do this is, whenever you split the legs, somebody splits the legs to jump up into handstand or jump up into forearm stand, what will typically happen is that they will back bend. So the lower belly will fall towards the floor, the ribs will splay out towards the floor, and you just start to lose that midsection integrity, which makes it usually a little bit more challenging to catch yourself once you're up there, as well as balance. So we'll try to stabilize and integrate the limbs here. So bring your knees above your hips and place your hands on your thighs, your knees. Let's go ahead and flex the feet. So shins about parallel to the floor. Flex your feet for this one. And then just push the two pieces together. So push your hands into your knees into your hands. And literally, it's going to be very similar to what we just did with the one arm, one leg from all fours. I don't want you to move your midsection too much whenever we stretch the arm and leg away from each other. So keep your right hand and right knee where they're at, and then extend your left leg away from your left hand and reach your left hand overhead. And then go ahead and draw the left hand and left knee together. And then just do that again. So do that a few more times on your own, but move slow enough that you can feel when your midsection tries to move on you, when it tries to distort a little bit. And then do your best to minimize those movements. So the movement itself might not actually be that much movement, meaning the movement of your arm and leg might not be that great, but that's not the purpose of this exercise. All right, release, take a breath or two between sides. And then bring your knees above your hips again, bring your hands onto your knees, and then we'll do the second side. So push the two pieces together, stabilize, and then just extend the right arm and right leg away from each other. So right arm overhead, slide the right foot away from the right hand, and then go back to the starting position, and just do that a few times on your own. I would suggest go a little bit slower, so you can feel those, what might be perceived to be just really small minor movements in the midsection. And so you can actually build the awareness of how to stabilize the midsection for, let's say, integrating the limbs. I think that's more accurate. How to integrate the limbs more with the midsection. Okay, release. Take a couple resting breaths. All right, let's come around to hands and knees again. Let's come up into down dog briefly. So that's considered, so for me in my mind, that's considered our core work in preparation for the forearm stand position. And just for these few moments you're in down dog, feel how much more clearly or how much more stable your overall dog pose just feels. Your arms might feel a little bit more integrated. Your thighs, your legs might feel a little bit more integrated into the midsection. All right, come down to hands and knees or sit back on your heels there. And we'll go ahead and use a wall now. So I'm going to have us walk our feet up the wall with that dolphin pose position. And that'll just kind of get us ready to be more in the vertical position. So getting used to putting all your body weight onto your arms, or a little bit closer to all your body weight on your arms. So set up over at a wall. If you don't have a wall though, you could just grab a chair and step your feet up onto a chair. That can kind of mimic getting more vertical, a little bit more inverted. Or if you have like a real solid piece of furniture you can step your feet up onto. If you don't have the wall available, then you could try that out as well. One of the ways to measure this out is sit down with your legs straight and your feet into whatever you're going to put your feet on. And then mark off where your sitting bones are, as that's where your elbows are going to go. So you can ballpark it a little bit. Then place your elbows where your sitting bones were with your hands interlaced together. We're going to do dolphin pose, the modification here, or variation. So come on up. Put your heels against the wall, lift your hips up. Then bring your right foot up. Bring your left foot up onto the wall. And then push your wrist down and forward. Lift your hips up away from the floor. Push your wrist down. And then step your right foot down, step your left foot down, and rest. Go ahead and sit back and rest. Okay, we'll do that again. So place your elbows down where they just were. If you noticed that your proportions are a little bit different than that, you might need to scoot your elbows closer or farther away from the wall. But come up into your dolphin position. Step your left foot up. Step your right foot up the wall. And get more of your hips over your elbows and shoulders. So push your wrists down and forward, move your upper back in. And stack your shoulders over your elbows, stack your hips over your shoulders as best you can. Step your left foot down, step your right foot down, sit back, do child's pose or sit back on your heels, rest. Okay, now we're going to play with the hopping aspect of going up into forearm stand. I'm going to suggest use a wall. So if you're newer, this wall is going to be a good training tool of where vertical is, or actually beyond vertical is, and it'll catch you, believe it or not. So trust that the wall will catch you. Try not to put holes in your wall, especially if you're renting a place. So if kicking just seems like a little bit beyond where you need to be, then repeat what we just did. Otherwise, turn yourself around, set everything up like you just had, but now with your knuckles, your fingers all the way to the wall. Come up into dolphin pose. Don't be in a hurry though. I want us to take a moment with the split leg before we hop up. So go ahead and look between your forearms, walk yourself in, but push your wrist down and forward, move your upper back in. Now step the legs together, lift your right leg up and pause. Now here, again, your midsection, I want you to cinch it all in. So the bottom ribs towards the top of your pelvis, pull those areas in towards one another and just bend your left knee. Now, go ahead and take a few hops. So try to get your right heel all the way up to the wall and then come down. Again, do it again. Hop up, touch the wall, and then come down. So do one more. This time, hop up and hold. Get hit in the head with your microphone. And then push your wrist down, scrub your heels up the wall. Hold this version of forearm stand. Split your legs, slowly descend, come down and rest. Good times, good times, good times. Okay, we're going to do it again. So we'll do it what's considered like the second side of the pose. So lifting the left leg first, hopping up with the right leg just to even out both sides. But again, when you go in the quest for the hop, do more of the hopping from the bottom leg propelling you up. And as you hop, try to hop your, let's say the whole kidney region. Try to hop that area as well as the back of your pelvis up and over your shoulders. So don't think about getting your foot to the wall so much as trying to hop your torso and hips over your shoulders. Hopefully that helps. Come down and set up. Come up into dolphin pose again. Walk yourself in. We'll go a little bit faster this time and lift your left leg up and back. Integrate everything though. So go ahead and squeeze the shoulders in, hug the hips in, and then when you're ready for it, hop up, come down, do 3 hops, come down, third one, stay up and hold the pose. Push your wrist down, pull your upper back in, so bottom tips of shoulder blades in. Stretch your heels up. Split your legs, come down, rest. Okay. So what we've been working with, like I said earlier, is the modified arm position, or one of the modifications for the arms in forearm stand. Now I want us to kind of start to move the hands apart into going more towards your traditional arm position of forearm stand. So what I'm going to do is have us use a block, or at least I'm going to use a block. If you don't have one available, that's totally fine. Work with whatever you have available. So without going through all the different options that we can do for this, I'll just kind of talk through them, and I'll leave it up to you to kind of pick and choose the best one for your body. So this clearly right here, in my mind, is one of the easier, most accessible ways to start to develop the strength in the arms and shoulders. Well, this is a more easily accessible way to get upside down towards forearm stand. Maybe not the best way to build strength. You can go to a gym. But to start to move towards, let's go ahead and start to move away from this hand position and start to move hands farther apart. And what you could do is, instead of interlacing your fingers, you can grab your block. So if you see here, you go from here to here, so that's hands farther apart. Then you can start to take your hands or your palms flat to the floor like so, or go ahead and turn the block, go a little bit wider, or go with your palms flat. So whenever I don't know if I did the best definition on how to do it. Easy, less easy, less easy, and then palms down, even less easy, that's harder, and then harder, harder, okay? So once you pronate the forearms and the wrists and place the palms flat, it becomes harder and harder, or more demanding on the upper back. So all that said, choose one of these positions, either with the hands, the palms not on the floor, just moving your hands apart progressively, or palms on the floor, move your hands apart progressively. They all work. What I'm gonna do, since I know I can do it, is palms flat, hands about block width apart, okay? Now, if you want to play along, let's go ahead and play along. Come up into dolphin pose, walk yourself in, lift your right leg up again, and then go up and hold the pose. Go all the way up. For this one, hold yourself upside down. Split your legs and come down and rest. Okay, I certainly hope that was informative and fun. I know I had fun. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Let me know how that went. If you want to work on something else, just let me know and I'll come up with something for us, for you guys to play with. As well, hit the like button. Apparently that helps. I'm not really sure. But yeah, have a good day.